This is the Cubs POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Chicago Cubs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Cubs POSTCAST here on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. The Cubs lose 6-4 to the Cincinnati Reds. The series is now tied. Joe George here with you. Find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Joe George Radio. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. How would I describe today's game? Tough day for the Cubs. We'll talk about Colin Rea, all the hard contact with not a lot to show for it. Obviously, you have multiple chances in the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th inning to win this baseball game, tie this baseball game, and the offense just doesn't come through in this one. Like you're spoiled the day before with the amazing heroics of Pete Crow-Armstrong and Kyle Tucker. Today, not so much. So we'll talk about all of this, and at the end of the show, we'll have a discussion as well about Miguel Amaya. We're also going to talk about Ian Happ, because I see a lot of questions about Ian Happ and whether he should be batting leadoff, what's going on with him. So we'll talk about him as well. But we'll start today's show with our turning point of today's game.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
I think you can look at a couple spots here, but specific, if I can talk, specifically for Colin Rea, we got to go to the inning in which the Cubs give up 3 innings there in the 5th, his last one of the day. 5 innings pitched, 7 hits, 6 earned runs, 8 strikeouts, 3 walks. Early on, you could tell it was going to be a struggle. 2 walks in which he's up 0-2 on a Reds batter and walks them. He was wild in this game. The most wild we've seen Colin Rea be. This is tough. Tough's going to be the key word of the show today again, because yesterday you get a start in which Matthew Boyd is very bumpy in the beginning, has to grind through just to get through 4 innings. And then we see the same thing with Colin Rea today, where it's bumpy in the first, gives up the 2-run home run to Elly De La Cruz, and it looks like he settles in, gets a bunch of strikeouts. It unravels there a little bit in the 5th inning. Kind of like Matthew Boyd. It honestly could have been a lot worse. Like it could have unraveled in a way that was totally insurmountable. They were still in the ball game, but he wasn't very good in this game. So 2 days in a row, your starting pitcher really struggles out of the gate, and specifically, they're struggling with command. Now, this series is tied, but you go into Sunday's game with who on the mound? Ben Brown, who's had the same struggles all season long, basically, where early on he struggles, he settles in, and then typically the 3rd time through the order, he gets kind of roughed up a little bit. He has high pitch counts, and you're seeing the bullpen get a lot of work, potentially, thankfully today, at least for the Cubs. Brazier makes his season debut. He gets through his inning there in the 6th, and then we see Kreisky, I think is how you say it. I forgot how to say his name already. He gets through his 2 innings as well. So at least the bullpen didn't have to have a long day at the office. You're not burning through these guys, but it's been tough for the starting pitching the first 2 days. Again, Colin Rea just didn't have it in this one. He was leaving stuff over the middle. He was missing stuff way outside the zone. I mean, there was one strikeout he had where the placement was low and away, and the strikeout ended up being up and inside. So he really just had no control over what was happening on the mound in this one. So you'll look for a bounce back outing from both him and Boyd. Both those guys have been really good for the Cubs this year. It's frustrating more so, I think, that when you have them both on back-to-back days like this, if they're spread out, it makes you feel like it's just, they just happen, and they do just happen. It's just frustrating as a fan seeing your starters 2 days in a row struggle to get through the 1st inning. I mean, Boyd's pitch count was in the mid to high 30s at the end of the 1st. The fact that he got through 5, honestly, kind of feels like a miracle for Rea today. So it was just tough. It was a tough day at the office for Colin Rea. Some hard hit contact. That's where it's a little bit different than what happened to Boyd. Boyd was a lot of soft contact, unlucky stuff. Rea was getting hit hard in this game, and the Reds were taking advantage. And you know what? It just was not a good one for him. Now, the Cubs, the other flip side of this, in yesterday's game, they pulled off some massive heroics. Today, they had the chance to do the same. They fell short. There's no doubt about that. We're not going to ignore that. They were right there and had a chance to win this baseball game multiple times to at least tie it, and they just didn't get it done. You look here, we'll go back to the 6th inning. So the 6th inning starts off. Kyle Tucker gets a single. Seiya Suzuki walks. You got 1st and 2nd with no outs. You're down 6-1. Dansby Swanson, fielder's choice. So you got first and third with one out. You would think, okay, get at least one run in this inning at a minimum. PCA chases on a pitch way outside the zone. He strikes out. Then Nico Horner pops out and the inning is over. So you get no damage. Top of the seventh, Carson Kelly, leadoff single. Matt Shaw hits his fourth double since returning to the big leagues. Again, also to the opposite field. Until his fifth one there in the ninth, he loves going oppo, man. They were talking about this on the broadcast, about how slug is so much better when you pull, but Shaw is just driving everything the other way. So you've got second and third with one out. You think you're going to get a couple runs. Ian Happ hits an RBI ground out, 6-2. Then the inning's over. So you have 2 innings in which you've got multiple guys on base, and you so far have gotten 1 run. You go to the top of the 8th inning, Seiya Suzuki, leadoff double, Dansby Swanson, ground out. You got a runner on third with 1 out. So again, runners in scoring position. Crow-Armstrong hits a sac fly. It's 6-3 Reds. So they're chipping away, but they're leaving a lot of guys left on base. And you get to the top of the 9th, same story again. Carson Kelly, leadoff home run. Matt Shaw gets his 5th double since coming back to the majors, and they do nothing else with it. Kyle Tucker up to the plate. So you have multiple opportunities there, and so many different guys that came up there and had the opportunity to either drive in tying runs or closing the gap, and they just didn't get it done in this one. Now, it's nice that you saw all these guys getting on base, but the clutch factor that we've seen a lot for the Cubs this year just didn't show itself in the game today. So that's why it's a tough day. It's a frustrating loss, I think, is another good way to put it, because even before, I mean, you go back to the second inning here as well. This was the one where I thought it was actually going to be the third inning, the turning point of the game. Justin Turner hits his first home run of the year, puts him at 199 in his career. And then Shaw and Tucker both hit warning track outs in that inning. They were getting to the Reds starting pitcher pretty good with hard hit contact. They were unlucky, and then they weren't clutch when you needed them the most. So it's a frustrating loss for sure. It's one of those where, especially because it feels like in the end, the Cubs should not have lost this game, even though the pitching was not at its best. They just had all those opportunities to get it done. But the bigger picture of this game goes back to the starting pitching. Again, 2 days in a row in which you don't get a lot out of it. We're expected to see Shota throw a bullpen on Tuesday, but we're still talking deep into June, they're saying, for his return. You really need these guys to start giving you some length, and we'll see what happens with Ben Brown tomorrow in the series finale. And look, the Cubs are trying to win. I just didn't realize this. Trying to win their first series in Cincinnati since 2022 tomorrow. It would be nice to get the monkey off your back on that one and to be able to get it done, because this is a team that is going to be interesting the rest of the year. The Reds are. They've got a lot of talent. They just haven't been hitting the ball very well this year, but they've done well against the Cubs through 2 games. They put up a lot of runs in 2 games against you. So, you just got to try to go out there and win another one, and hopefully you can just knock it down early, because that's where it feels like it's really becoming a theme that you don't enjoy seeing. Even if you go back to the Marlins series, like you're seeing, and the White Sox series, like you're seeing teams jump on the Cubs pitching early in games. The offense is overcoming a lot of that, and the pitchers are settling in. But the start of the games has not been super clean, I think, is the nicest way that we can put it. So a tough loss for the Cubs today. We'll take a break here. We'll talk about Ian Happ and Miguel Amaya on the other side, plus your questions and comments live here on YouTube. If you have other questions, you're listening on the audio version later on, you can tweet me at Joe George Radio and get back to you right away. All right, we'll get to all of that next here on the Locked On Cubs postcast on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. You're looking at Sunday's game here, Knicks-Pacers. The Pacers favored by 2.5. In this one, they're up 2-0 in this series. The Knicks have lost both games at home to start this series. I'm just going to roll with the Pacers here, -2.5. Tyrese Halliburton has been a monster in the playoffs so far, even though I love Jalen Brunson because he's a local kid, but tough for the Knicks so far. So I'll roll with the Pacers, -2.5 in that one. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, let's start here with Miguel Amaya. So this is the third oblique injury that the Cubs have. So Ian Happ, who we're going to talk about here in a second, Porter Hodge, and then Miguel Amaya on a throw to second base to try to throw Elly De La Cruz. Hurts his oblique. Long conversation behind the plate. Tries to play catch with Justin Turner. Has to leave the game. So Carson Kelly is your catcher now. Now, they pointed this out on the broadcast as well, but thankfully, the Iowa Cubs are playing in Ohio right now in Columbus, so you can bring someone over very easily in this game. Look, it's an interesting conversation about who you bring up, but first of all, it just sucks because Miguel Amaya has played really well this year. Like, hopefully it's just like with Porter Hodge. Sounds like it's going to be only a stint on the short IL, only the short stint on the IL, 15 days for him, just like it was for Ian Happ, who we'll talk about here in a second. But it means you don't have a catcher. You only have one catcher on your roster right now. What's tough about this situation is you can't really wait. You can't really wait to make a move. You have to kind of make this move tonight because, first of all, you play in the afternoon tomorrow. And because injuries are so random, you can't really go into a game with one catcher on your roster. So they have to make a move tonight. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a move within the next 2 hours of here being live on YouTube. You have to bring someone up. You have a couple options. You could have Moises Ballesteros come up. You could DFA someone and make room for Reese McGuire, who they signed to a minor league deal. Both of those have positives and negatives. First of all, like, if you really want to DFA someone from your roster for Reese McGuire, I think the answer to that feels like a no. For Moises, though, I kind of want him to be swinging the bat every single day that he's on a roster, whether it's in the minors or in the majors. I know it wasn't, super effective when he was up here, but I kind of hate the idea of bringing up a prospect and having them sit on the bench and not play. And that's what I kind of expect would be what would happen if he comes up here. Is that Carson Kelly's just going to catch virtually every single day. The Cubs have an off day on Thursday after they play the Rockies, and then they have an off day on Monday before they go into a 9-game stretch. A 9-game road trip, that is. So I really don't think you're going to see Moises be a big factor in the roster, if he comes up right now. So maybe they'll go at even a third different option. I don't even know who that would be. Someone you just call up from the minors, and they're just basically the emergency catcher, and they're pretty much just taking Brujan's spot until unless you have to take Carson Kelly out of a game for any reason. But Carson Kelly is just going to be the primary catcher. So that's why I don't think it's going to be Ballesteros. I don't think he's going to be the guy that comes up. Just because, again, I think that if you're going to bring him up, the expectation should be that he's going to play. You're not going to have him DH, obviously, because your outfield is healthy, it seems. We'll talk about Ian Happ here in a second. So I think the move is going to be a third option, honestly, that's not Reese McGuire and that's not Moises. If they even have, honestly, I'm not looking at the Cubs 40-man roster right now. They might not even have another catcher on the 40-man roster, so I might be totally out of pocket right here. I don't keep up with all the minor league stuff like I probably should. But so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I would guess we see a move made tonight at a minimum, so you can have another catcher up here on the roster for Sunday's afternoon game, and then again before you play the Colorado Rockies at home. Now, Ian Happ has been struggling mightily since he came off the injured list. So a couple things on this. First of all, if he's not healthy, he probably shouldn't have came off the injured list. You don't want to put him back on if you don't have to. But if he wasn't totally healthy, you could put him back on the injured list, and then Moises could come back up with someone else, and then you find out that, he can be your DH every day, and Suzuki's back in left field. I think Ian Happ is healthy. I think he's just struggling mightily. Specifically, he's striking out. Like, he doesn't look unhealthy in any way, shape, or form. He's just not hitting the ball. He's not making any kind of contact with the ball that's up there. And yes, he gets an RBI ground out in this game today, but he's 1 for 5 with 2 strikeouts. And again, the strikeout numbers are it's just the big thing right now. So his timing is just off mightily. And we have to wait and see, how long you can wait for it to get better, but you don't really have a choice. The only thing you have a choice in is you could make a decision to move him down in the order, because we saw how well that's worked for Dansby Swanson, who got on base again today and is now 23 straight games of getting on base. That has been since he was hitting 181 on the season, 23 straight games of getting on base. We saw him hitting fourth in the lineup today. Surprised me a little bit. I know it was a lefty on the mound, but I thought we would just see PCA batting fourth maybe at all times. But, Craig Counsell proved me wrong on that one. So could moving Ian Happ down just to try to get him back going again, to try to see more fastballs. You see more fastballs in the bottom of the lineup. I think the answer to that should be yes. Ian Happ's a pro. Like, he's not going to take this personally if you decide to move him down so we can get his swing back and going. And honestly, it's what's best for the team right now. So I would honestly, if I had my way, I would move Pete Crow-Armstrong back to the leadoff spot, and I would move Ian Happ down. Obviously, we're live here. If you're listening on audio, you already know this information. Craig Counsell did say after the game officially already that Miguel Amaya is going to the 10-day injured list. A corresponding move will be made, and it will be Moises Ballesteros or Reese McGuire. So those are the two options, again, that the Cubs are going to make for the catcher spot. Miguel Amaya will be out for at least the next 10 days. So that sucks for him. Again, I don't know what's up with these oblique injuries. I saw someone say why there's so many. I saw someone on Twitter say we should just rename the Cubs to Chicago Obliques. I think this is a good point by Christopher Cole here in the chat, here on YouTube. Ballesteros hasn't caught in the major leagues yet. I do think that factors in too. So it's like he's not going to be hitting because he's not going to be playing that often. And he's going to catch big league pitching for the first time. Those are tall tasks to ask for someone for just a 10-day stint. So my gut tells me that if it is really just those two guys, that Reese McGuire is going to be the guy that we see moved onto the roster. Speaking of DFAs, very quickly here before we wrap up the show, talked yesterday at length, even after the Cubs win, that Julian Merriweather needs to be DFA'd. We saw that happen today. It was the right move. I'm hoping that he finds his way back to AAA in Iowa for the Cubs because of what we've seen in the past. I'm not totally out on him, but there was no place for him on the big league roster anymore after the way that he had been pitching this entire season so far. So that was the right move too for the Cubs to make, to just let Julian Merriweather go at this point in the season and hopefully get him back into the minors, into your system. I think that will happen. I can't imagine any team's going to be rushing to bring in Merriweather right now, but so Amaya's out for 10 days. We will wait to see what the corresponding move is. Merriweather's gone, and just a tough day at the office for the Cubs. Colin Rea, not at his best, didn't really have a lot of control. Hopefully tomorrow, the Cubs, for the first time since 2022, can win a series in Cincinnati. That will do it for us for this episode of the Locked on Cubs postcast. My name is Joe George. Someone asked me earlier in the chat if I'm on Threads or on Blue Sky. I'm not on Blue Sky yet. I need to at some point. I know a lot of people are moving there. I'm not there yet. But I am on Threads at Joe George Radio. It's the same there as well. So Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, wherever you find me at Joe George Radio. So we'll talk to you guys tomorrow after the final game of this 3-game set against the Reds with Ben Brown on the mound. Talk to you tomorrow.